Hi there, welcome back to Still Waters ASMR. Hello. Today I thought I'd do a video where I talk about crofts and crofting, and I explain a little bit more about what that's about. So, crofting is more than just welly boots and water skins, but they do come in handy. I probably don't need the water skin trousers on a day like today because it's actually warm, sun's shining, and it's more than just having a staff, although I do have a staff. I was very excited when I got that as a present. And there's a head collar there because I was out taking Flora for a walk. So yeah, I just want to talk a bit about what a croft is, to the best of my knowledge. And I'm out actually checking the sheep, and I thought I'd sit in the shelter of this wall. So inside that wall would have been used for growing like potatoes and vegetables and things, kale and that kind of thing. They've got a kale yard. So I'm sitting behind it in the shelter doing this video. And I'm hoping that the wind we're sheltered enough here that the wind won't make too much wind noise on the microphone. I'm just using my phone to record this. So I actually just went and double checked what I've just recorded to make sure that the wind is okay. It seems to be okay for so far. I don't have a huge amount of battery left on my phone at the moment, so I'll record what I can and we'll see where we hit. So I'll just have you looking at that beautiful view and catching like sea sounds. So a croft is basically a small, what other people might call like a small holding. It's like a very small farm. Once upon a time, a croft would have been big enough that you could have sustained your family from that bit of land. You could have raised enough livestock and vegetables and crops to feed your own family. And they usually supplemented it with fishing as well. So they would go out to the fishing to help supplement what they could get off the land. And historically in Scotland, then the actual land itself has been owned by landlords or lairds, and the people who've lived on the crofts would just have tenancies. And then we had the Highland clearances, where whole communities were cleared off of the ground to make way for sheep. And that's how a lot of people ended up emigrating from Scotland to Canada or New Zealand or America. Literally, if they were lucky, the landlord would pay for their fare to the new country they were going to. But some of them, literally, my granny used to tell me stories about men who'd come back from the fishing to find that the landlord had literally burned their house down while they were away at the fishing, leaving their wife and children basically homeless. And they come back to be told that that's it, pack up your stuff and go. Well, they wouldn't have much to pack up because their house would have been burned down. And so it was a very brutal time in Scotland's history, and a lot of the landowners were actually English, which is why one of the reasons why there's still a lot of animosity against the English. Although ironically here in Shetland a lot of the landowners were Scottish, so that's why in Shetland there can be some resentment against mainland Scotland. They don't view themselves as Scottish because Shetland used to belong to Denmark and Norway, and when some royalty married some royalty, it was given as a dowry. And a lot of Shetland people view themselves as being more Scandinavian than Scottish. And it's the Scottish people who've oppressed the Shetland people in the same way the English oppressed the Scottish. It's all about who's the smaller fish. So, as a result of that, the Crofting Commission was born. I'm not sure when it was started, but basically the Crofting Commission was created to protect the crofting traditional way of life here in Shetland and Scotland. And how they do that is they've introduced a lot of rules and regulations around the management of crofts. So now there's a lot of protections in place. If you have the tenancy of a croft, there's a lot of protections in place now. You can't just be evicted. And there's a lot more kind of involved. So here we do not own any of the land that was around here. It's owned by our landlord. My husband has got the tenancy of 3 small crofts because with crofting you can't make a living off of it now. You could probably be fairly self-sufficient and raise your own food, but you couldn't make a living off of a croft. So nowadays people who have crofts also have either full or part-time jobs as well to actually pay the bills and all that kind of thing. But the crofts themselves, it's more of an expensive way of life rather than an income. I've not done the books yet for our crofts, so I have no idea just how much money we lose from having crofts, but it's the way of life that we love, and that's why we do it, and that's why people continue to do it. So I don't know how well you can see because it is very, very bright, but on the hill opposite to show up, there is some old crofts over here, and it's really hard to see on the phone. I think another one over here, and then there's another one over here, right there. There would have been there was houses and crofts over there. But now nobody lives there. And in the same way, over on the other side, so over here, there used to be a house, and then there was some more over here. So when you travel around Shetland, you see so many old ruins and so many old crofts, and you see there would have been people living scattered all over the place, having their own little parcel of land. And traditionally on a croft, what you'd have the croft house with a bit of land immediately around the croft house, and then you'd have what they would call the hill dick, which is like the hill wall, and that would divide the bit just around the immediate house, which would be cultivated, with the hill, which wouldn't be cultivated, and you would have had just sheep grazing. So if you look over here, I don't know how well it's showing up. Well, let's look over there because I know it's definitely showing up. Where you see the green, that's where they've cultivated the land, and then where it's just heather beyond, they've not cultivated those bits. So this bit here obviously has been cultivated because it's all nice and green. So with crofts, they would have had their own little bit that they would have cultivated down around their house, and then the hill, everybody would have just put their sheep out on the hill, and then as a community they would have, herded them all in and worked with the sheep as a community. So that was like communal ground. And in Shetland we have something called peats, which is, or we call them pits. In Ireland they call it turf. It's kind of a cross between soil and coal. It's kind of not got the stage of coal yet, but it's where the heather has like decomposed down and formed peat, which you then cut out of the hill and burn as your fuel source. So if you have a croft, what that typically involves is some land around near where your house is, and then access to the hill where you can run sheep if you want, and you can cut peats as well. The rules and regulations state that to get the tenancy of a croft, you must either live on the croft or within 20 miles. I think it's 20 miles now. You cannot be absentee. You have to be working the land. To fill out the application to buy like the tenancy of a croft, you have to have like a plan for what you're going to do with the croft and how you plan to work it. You can't just like get it and just like live there for the view. You have to actually work the ground. You have to be maintaining the fences and any drainage. You have to be keeping animals or growing crops or doing something with the ground, because the whole purpose of the Crofting Commission is that they're trying to preserve the crofting way of life. So although the landlord owns this land, he must let out the land to tenants. I mean, you can own the land and work it yourself, but you have to be living on it and working it. And so most of it, and I think they have restrictions on how much one person can be working, so that you can't have one person hoarding a huge area. So the Crofting Commission can say, no, you can't do that, you have to rent it out. And so when you apply to the Crofting Commission, you have to have a plan, you have to be willing to work the land, you have to be like living nearby, contributing to the local community, and that kind of thing. So they then sort of make sure that people are sticking by those rules, and it basically just helps preserve the way of life. But if once you buy a tenancy, it's sort of like it's your tenancy for life. You can pass it on to your children as an inheritance, as long as they're living there and working the ground. You can sell a tenancy. So my husband is he's a tenant of 3 small crofts, which they've kind of combined to make kind of one larger croft, which he inherited that from his grandmother. And then he's a sub-tenant on a 4th croft, which I'm actually in the process of trying to buy the tenancy of. The people who have the tenancy of it don't live anywhere nearby. They don't even live in Shetland, and they're needing to sell a tenancy, because you can't give a tenancy if you don't live anywhere near it. And they approached us and asked, since we're the subtenants, if we wanted to buy it. So we're currently going through the paperwork for that. So it was in the local paper today, so that if anybody's got objections, they can raise them. And so we'll basically wait and see what comes about. I'm really hoping we get it, because if we lose it, it'll be a massive loss, because it's some of our best and biggest hay parks, like hay fields, and our hay barn is on that bit of croft. So if we lose that, it'll be a massive blow to us. So we're really hoping that nobody objects, nobody else tries to kind of elbow in on it, and that that they. I think I put forward a pretty good proposal of what I plan on doing with the place. So I'm planning to get chickens, I'm planning to get cows. Not a lot, but enough to be self-sufficient. I'd like to raise my own meat, chickens, and so with the beef, if I raise my own beef, I could save money based on what I pay for in the supermarket. But raising my own chickens, I was just having a conversation with my husband, and he was commenting on how I will be losing money. It'll end up costing me a lot more to raise my own chickens than what it is to buy it at the supermarket, but I'll then know exactly where it's come from. I plan on actually killing it myself and butchering it myself, because then I'll know exactly where it's come from. I'll know exactly what kind of life it's led. I'll know exactly what kind of death it's had. I'll know that it's lived well and it's died well and cleanly, and there's not been any unnecessary stress and trauma. So it's like my answer to veganism or vegetarianism is to grow it myself. So although it'll end up being costing more, my plan is that I'll then, in the long run, karma, end up better off. Sort of doing my thing for the world. And I plan on like growing vegetables and that kind of stuff. It'll all take time, but you know, it's kind of 5-10 year plan. But I plan on being here for a while. I plan on living here until I'm old and I can't work the ground anymore, and then I hope I can still live here, but just pass the crofts on to somebody else and just live here and die here. My husband wants to be buried around here somewhere, so maybe plant him over there next to that big stone or something. So you never know, I might end up buried here too one day alongside him. There's rules and regulations about burying people on your land, so we'll need to follow rules on that, but we'll see what we can do. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of introduce the whole concept of crofting. It's not like a traditional farm. You know, someone else owns the land, but we basically have a tenancy for life. Once you've got it, you've got a tenancy for life. As long as you're living on or near it and working it, it's yours. And so you can pass it on to children, or you can sell it on. And there's a whole thing about if you build a house on it, then if you want to sell the house you have to decroft the land, and it's complicated. But yeah, I really love it here. I'm so happy here. And this way of life, I just love it. It's hard work. My husband's been spending all day at the peat hill today, working hard. He'll probably be there all weekend cutting peats, which will basically tie us over for the next year. We've used a lot of coal this year, which hasn't been ideal, having to buy it in, so yeah, he'll basically be trying to cut as many peats as possible. I'll be going and helping him with cutting peats. I've never done before, so I'll probably need to learn how to do that next year. I was working today, so I wasn't able to go help him. I'll probably go try and help this weekend, but I don't know. I'll see how it goes. But I'll help him with like the next stages of working the peat hill, raising the peats and bagging the peats and bringing them home. Last year we were able to have like the whole family, Kevin's parents and his children came out to help. I don't know if we'll be able to do that this year because of the coronavirus lockdown. So we might have to do all of it ourselves, just the two of us, which will be a lot of hard work. But yeah, it's a hard working way of life. There's never enough hours in the day to do everything that you want to get done. But it's a really rewarding way of life. And just, you know, the privilege of being able to live somewhere like this. And also just knowing that we're kind of following in the footsteps of generations before us. Kevin's grandparents lived here, so his dad grew up here, and hopefully so my stepkids have already kind of partially grown up here, and hopefully if we have any children, they'll grow up here as well. And you know, it's just really wonderful. There's a lot of Shetland dialect words are tied into the crofting way of life as well. So by keeping the way of life alive, you keep the language alive too. So it's yeah, I just thought I'd do a little what is a croft video, explain, because I talk about crofting life and I talk about being a crofter, and that's basically what it is. So we all have other jobs that we do as well to pay the bills, and then we work really hard keeping a croft, keeping animals going. and my battery is about to die, so I might wrap this up. And I think I've covered everything. I've mentioned about the crofting commission, I've mentioned about the rules surrounding having a croft. And Tillac over there, or an Arctic tern. It's fishing. I think it's a Turk anyway. I still need to work on learning on my birds. There's some birds that, some ducks that live out here, and they crack me up because it sounds like they're like little old women gossiping, because they make this like ooh, ooh kind of noise, and it just sounds like you're telling a scandal to one another and going ooh. It just, yeah, it amuses me every time I hear them. Yeah, anyway, I'm gonna go now and go finish counting sheep. And you guys take care, and I'll see you again sometime soon.